Praise the Lord, wherever you may be at today. I'm holding this broken limb or piece of wood that fell off of this oak tree here. And one of the things that as I was looking at it, several things crossed my mind. First thing being that this was a part of a branch on a tree, and over time it got old and brittle and it broke off. And there's still purpose in this broken off piece of wood. You know, for some people it can be shredded and put into a mulch. It can be grinded up and made paper out of, but there's still purpose. And goes to the point we're talking about those that felt rejected, those that have been an outcast, those that felt that your life was insignificant. And that's why today I want you to understand that when we read, there were several messages that I preached on. The first one is about the leper. And when you read in Matthew, the 8th chapter, this leper went to Jesus knowing that he was an outcast. He knowing that his life had lost value because of a disease that he had. But one day Jesus came along and he said, if thou wilt, thou can be made whole. And Jesus reached out and changed his life. We go on to St. John, the 4th chapter, and you see that there was a woman at the well, and her life was unimportant. She was a prostitute. She had several men, and the men she had was not her husband. But still, her life had value. And Jesus told her all about herself. And she left there and said, come, let me tell you about a man that told me all about my life. And then we look at a story in the book about Jephthah. When you read in Judges, the 11th chapter, he was rejected from his family, he was ostracized, and he was thrown away, but God still found purpose for his life. And today you may be going through some areas and some issues in your life where you felt that you've lost it all. You've made too many mistakes, but I'm here to tell you, even though that you may seem like an outcast, God still has purpose. And I want to challenge all of you today that as you listen to these messages, as you understand what God has did, every last one of them had a story to tell. If you read the story about Joseph, he had a story to tell. He went from the pit to the palace. You read the story of Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's house and he was exiled, but then he came back to deliver all of the children of Israel and to lead them to a land where God promised them that will be flowing for milk and honey. You read about a boy by the name of David. He grew up tending to the sheep, but God made him king over Israel. And then you'll find out that each and every one that we dealt with, their life had value. And I want you to know today that your life has value. You may feel that you've went too far. You may feel that you have done too much, but God still has a plan for your life. And I want you to understand today that I brought a few people along with me to talk about some of the areas and the struggles of their life. But through it all, God still has a plan for their life. Stay tuned and I'll be right back in a moment.
The word outcast means to me is like when a lot of people are doing one thing and you're doing something else, like you just feel like you're left out or it's different. I felt rejected in my life when, I had my baby and I had to start moving and doing things on my own. I felt like I was alone. I just felt like I have to do everything by myself. Like it's no matter what, I have to do something. I can't expect everybody to always do something for me. If someone in my situation today, I would just tell them no matter what to keep going, it'll get better.
For me, it feels like no one else has anything in common with me. Like I'm lonely. I can be in a room with 100 different people and still feel alone. That's what the word outcast means to me. So my whole life I was a baseball player, and my dreams was to become a Major League Baseball player, play professionally in front of millions of fans. I had the opportunity to get seen by a bunch of scouts and talk to a bunch of different teams. But when the draft came, my senior year in college, none of the teams called me on draft day. No one wanted me, and when the draft was over with, I was undrafted. So I pretty much felt like an outcast. I felt like I failed my family, my teammates, my parents and my friends and everything like that. And I felt like I failed myself. So it was really hard for me, and I worked my whole life for it. So it was rough. I could say, to encourage them, I would say we have a best friend right inside of us, the Holy Spirit and Jesus Christ. He's my best friend. He's someone who listens to me. I can say whatever I want to him. I can pour my heart out to him, and he can give me peace and joy. And whenever someone's dealing with that doubt or the rejection or just loneliness, just remember that that's a lie from the enemy and that it's not real. We always have someone there looking out for us.
In the book of Matthew, the 8th chapter, and we go back. And he says, when he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. Watch this, Harry. And behold, there came a leopard and worshiped him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. This is the one thing that I got up out of this text. Watch this, fool, watch this. And he says that they were so grossed out. This disease was incurable. And people knew that if I got around this person and I contracted this disease, then I won't have a cure. He came to Jesus knowing that there was a great multitude that followed him. So he had to put his pride aside. He had to put the way that he felt that other people would think about him to the side. And I'm talking to you today that you are going through a season in your life that you got to push everything out of the way. Who cares what people will know about the mistakes you made? Who cares that somebody would have to come to you and say that, was that you? He had to push all of that away. He wanted more than just a healing, fool. He wanted the healing, yes, but he knew that if he can get to Jesus, that Jesus would come in to make his entire body whole. So then I'm in a place that I need a healing, but then I need to come out of sin. So when he came to Jesus, he said, if I will, I know that you can deliver me from this disease. Because watch this, he said that if thou will, knowing that the writer tells us in Acts 1:8, and he says that, and you shall receive power once the Holy Ghost has come upon you. So he knew where the power resided at. He knew that who was the one that was going to be the one that can deliver him from that disease. But he said that if thou wilt, giving him, I know you can do that, but then can you just make me whole? Watch this, watch this. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him. And he put forth his hand and touched him. Watch this. When you understand that they were the outcast, that was somebody who was diseased. When you got the coronavirus, you had to isolate yourself. You had to go into quarantine. Nobody could touch you. Nobody wanted to be around you. But when Jesus comes up on the scene, the Bible says, and he reached out and he touched him, knowing that I have the dunamis. I am the dunamis. I am your will. I am the one that can set you free. I am the one that will deliver you. I am the one that will make you whole. I am dunamis. See, dunamis is just the word of power. See, what you got to understand, you got to know today where the power resides. When you fall down and you worship him, when you hit your face and you tell God to deliver you, when you stretch forth your hand and lift him up with your heart and you say that I'm coming to the one that holds the power. I'm coming to the one that can make me whole. I'm coming to the one that can deliver me. I'm going to the power. And Jesus knew that when he touched him, his body will be made whole. Today, I want you to be challenged. Say that you may be sitting there and you may be struggling in areas of your life. I talk about this because I was once an outcast. I was the one that people didn't want to be around. Yes, Pastor Calvin, yes, I'm the one that made the mistakes. Yes, that was me. I'm the one that had people say that, wait a minute, I don't want to be around you. You're that person. I saw you on TV and these are things that they were saying about you. I read this about you in the newspaper. Yeah, that's what they was talking about you. But then I came to a man and his name was Jesus. And all he did is reached out and touched me. And I became whole. And today, the same thing that can happen for you that happened for me, and you got to say that this is the story of the unclean. God is about to make what is unclean clean. God is about to take what's not right and make it right. God is about to turn my downward days into an upward days. The one that's going to reach out and touch you and make you clean, because you were an outcast. But God said, and I'm opening the gates, and now it's time for you to come in. It's time for you to get rid of your shame. It's time for you to get rid of that doubt, because now I'm coming into your life and I'm going to make you whole. You were an outcast, but now, somebody put that in the comment section and say, now. Put it in the comment section and say, now. He's making me clean. And after today, you're going to realize that everything that you went through in your life led you up for you to receive that touch from the Lord. And I pray that you have been blessed with this word today. And I pray that you understand that you are part of what God is making whole. This is your cure of how that you may be unclean, but God is about to make you clean. When he worshiped him, when he fell down on his face, when he kneeled down, wherever you at, wherever you're doing, worship him. I told you the Greek word prokonua means all they did is to kiss. And all it means is to lick like a dog. That means that no matter what you're dealing, no matter what you're facing, you're going to say, Lord, I'm worshiping you right now. You can do it riding down the road in your car. Just say, Lord, I worship you. You can do it by sitting there on that couch and say, Lord, I worship you. You can do it by while you're standing in that kitchen and say, Lord, I worship you. You can do it while you're laying in that bed and say, Lord, I worship you. Wherever you at, whatever you're doing, just say, Lord, I worship you. I'm coming to you as the leper. Lord, I consider my life as a leper because I am the outcast. I am the one that is going through. I am the one that has a need. And now I lift up my heart with my hands and just say, I worship you. In the mighty name of Jesus. Thank you so much for being a part of what God is doing. This is the Outcast series, and now all I did is giving you the recipe, a cure for the unclean.
Outcast, no one cares for that individual. I always experienced rejection in my childhood up until my adulthood. I always felt like I was the black sheep and the outcast of my family. It made me feel like I was the only person in the world, like I was always locked up in a jail cell and nobody was there to free me, or no one was there to hear my cry. But I always felt like I was the black sheep. I overcame it through the Word of God, through the teachings of Bishop M.B. Jefferson and Dr. Brenda Jefferson. I would tell them that they're not the only ones, even though I didn't have a mentorship back then. But now you can do it. You can overcome anything that comes your way. There's always going to be challenges, obstacles, but you do have the strength and the power to overcome and overstep those boundaries, those obstacles. I would tell them that there's always a ram in the bush. Someone is out there looking to help that particular person. You just have to be willing to be open-minded and to receive the help.
Things are about to change. It's about to change for us. And this is why God is calling us. Watch this. This is where we have to step into the need of people. Give me Matthew, the 25th chapter. And I want to start reading about the 34th verse. And so what you have to understand, what Matthew is teaching us. He said, the king say unto them on this right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom. Prepare for you from the foundation of the world. For I was hungered and you gave me meat. I was thirsty and you gave me drink. Get ready to pick it up, Harry. I was a stranger and you took me in. Naked. Go ahead, Harry.
And you clothed me.
Read.
I was sick.
Read.
And ye visited me.
Read.
I was in prison. And you came unto me.
How many of you said that, God, you were there in the wee hours of the night? You were there when nobody else was there. You came to me. When I cried out and I said, Lord, I need your help, you were there. Lord, when I was behind those prison bars and I said, Lord, will you deliver me out of this place? You were there. When I was laying in the hospital bed and you said, Lord, if I can just get up out of this place, if I can get my healing, you were there. Read, Harry, read.
Then shall the righteous answer him, saying,
read, sir.
Lord, when we saw thee a hunger.
And God said, when did I do this? When the disciples came and said, when did we do this? Lord, you know who you are. I don't remember giving you food. I don't remember being there with you in those sleepless nights. But watch this. Read, Harry.
When saw we thee a hunger and fed thee?
Read, sir.
Or thirsty and gave thee drink?
Read, sir.
When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in?
Read, sir.
Or naked and clothed?
I don't remember doing none of this. I don't remember giving somebody food. I don't remember housing somebody in my house when they didn't have anywhere to go. I don't remember none of these things, but this is what God has called us for. You're connected to something that's bigger than you. And I look at what God did. Claudia, watch this. God touched a man and a woman's heart, and he said, I want you to form a ministry. And I want you to go out into the highways, into the byways, and I want you to compel people to come to my house. And when they get there, I'm going to have somewhere for them to stay. I'm going to have a place where that they can eat 3 hot meals a day. I'm going to have a place where that when they are cold and sleeping outside under bridges and sleeping in parks on benches and sleeping on the side of the road and sleeping in abandoned houses, I'm going to have a place called the House of David, and I'm going to have that place where they can go and rest their heads. When they're hungry, when they don't have any food to eat, I'm going to put a place called the kitchen. And in this kitchen, I'm going to have people that's going to come and prepare meals for them. And I'm going to touch people's hearts, and I'm going to have them donate food. And I'm going to have them put money into an offering plate on Sundays. And I'm going to have them come in the middle of the week and say, I'm giving the offering because there are people that's going to come. And they don't have anywhere to go. The outcasts. The unimportant. The ones that were lost. That don't have anywhere to go. He said, I'm going to touch a man by the name of Bishop Jefferson. And I'm going to send him from Dallas, Texas. And I'm going to get a woman by the name of Dr. Brenda Jefferson. And I'm going to allow them to pass the cross. I'm going to allow them to unite in marriage. And I'm going to allow them to put a ministry together in Tampa, in Atlanta, in North Carolina, Memphis, Tennessee, in Miami, in Leesburg, in North Carolina, in Albuquerque, in New York, in Kentucky, in Texas, in Oklahoma, in the Caribbean, in London, in Africa, in other parts of the states that I didn't name. And I said, and I'm gathering all of these people because they are part of the outcast. And they're going to be people that's going to call you and say that I need help. Can you help my son? Can you help my daughter? The outcast. I'm going to send people that said, I'm tired of living my life this way. The outcast, the unimportant. I'm going to send you people that have been bound on drugs for 20 years and 30 years and 40 years and begging to be delivered. The outcast. And I'm going to touch your heart, and I'm going to send people that's going to help you. And I'm going to align your story just like the woman at the well. It's going to come up because I want your voice to be heard. And I want you to step into the need to meet the need. I'm going to allow you to develop a clothing closet that can give them fresh clothes and and needs that they can cleansing needs, soap and water and deodorant and all lotions and all of the things that they need. And I'm going to give you the tools, and I'm going to give you people that's going to be obedient to you, that's going to see the call that's upon this ministry. Disciples asked this to Jesus, how do we do this? Finish that for me, Harry.
And the king shall answer and say unto him,
watch this.
Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these.
He said, what? The unimportant. Read it again, Harry.
Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least of these.
He's talking to the outcast. Read it again, Harry.
And as much as ye have done it unto the least of these.
He's talking about the ones that feel that they are undeserving. Read it again, Harry.
Inasmuch as ye have done it unto the least.
The ones that feel that your life is insignificant. Read it one more time.
Inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these.
When you feel like that is not you and that you are all alone, God said, if you did it for the one, if you did it for one of them, every time that you gave an offering, every time that you donated a loaf of bread, every time that you put in labor and say, I'm going to come and help sweep up the grounds, and I'm going to help dump the trash, I'm going to help clean a bathroom, he said that you were responsible for that outcast. You were the one that helped make a difference. You were the one that maybe you didn't have the time to be there laboring at night, but because you invested into this vision, you were a part of making it happen. Finish that, Harry, and I'm about to get out of here.
Inasmuch as you have done unto one of the least of these,
Read, sir.
my brother, you have done it unto me.
And that's what God is telling us. And this is why God put this message in my heart talking about the outcast. And you're looking at your life and you're saying that, what can I do? But as you connect to what God is doing right here, you're helping feed that wayfaring man. You're helping making a difference in a little child's life. You're helping putting food on somebody's table. You're helping a child get back into school with necessary needs. This is what you're saying, the unimportant. And if I had a visual right now, I will put it up and I will put a line through un and say that you are important. You are who God has called. You are who God is going to use. You are who are significant to this work. So now I want to say this in closing. It's now time to give ourselves more to prayer so that we can ask God to allow us to see the struggles of others. You may feel that you're going through, but somebody else is in a worse position than you are. And that's why I want you to understand today, is thrown out the window, and you need to realize that you are important. In this Outcast series, I'm believing God that somebody is going to pull up their bootstraps and say that there's more that I can do. There's more that I can be of a help. And if I can help anywhere else in the world, I can start right here in my home church. If there's any more that I can do to make a difference, I can give more of my time, I can give more of my resources, I can give more to help. And saying that when the king says, how did I do all of these things? If you did it for one, you did it for so many more.
Outcast means someone rejected from the group or pushed out of a group or set aside from a group due to many different reasons. It could be cultural, it could be socioeconomic, it could be different reasons, but yeah, outcast means set aside, put away. I've faced rejection several times in my life, from a teenager in my youth all the way up to my adulthood. Rejection don't care who you are and what time of life you're in. It comes when it comes, and it's how you handle it what makes a difference. My first thing is prayer. Ask God to lead me in the right direction, or give me the discernment to see which direction I should go. It was a lot of prayer. Music was my pacifier. I picked up the guitar and fixed myself with music. First, I asked them, is God a part of their life? And prayer works. And communicate. Let some people know how you feel, because you may just find out you're not by yourself. Other people are feeling the same way you feel. And if you reach out and find out you have a community, it makes you feel less lonely.
Why do you think people are attracted to you? Why do you think that you were the one that everybody wanted to hang around? Even when you were in the lowest part of your life, people still wanted to hang around you. People still wanted to be associated with you. Even though they didn't mean you any good, they still wanted to keep you into a place, because Satan felt that if I can keep you here long enough, and when I keep you here long enough, then the plan of God may be lifted off of your life, because you felt that you can't go any further. And now what happens next? It reminds me of this story in the Bible in Luke the 15th chapter, Harry, where you see that there was the prodigal son, and the prodigal son goes to a place where that he felt that he needed to leave his father's house, but then he leaves, and now he loses all of his inheritance. He goes to a land where the Bible said it was so bad that he started hanging out with the pigs, the swines, and he was in a place where he said that if I felt in my life that I've gotten this low, he said, if I go back to my father's house, it's better than where I'm at today. And today I want to challenge somebody. That spirit of rejection that's on your life, that spirit that's causing you to say that you're not worth it, that spirit that's trying to get you to commit suicide, that's trying to get you to think about that you're not loved, trying to get you to leave the church because you felt that you've been rejected. You're saying that my pastors don't understand me. You're finding yourself pulling away. That fight that you had in you, you don't have no more. That longing that you once had, you don't have no more. That desire that you had, that you wanted to pray and to seek God's face, that you wanted to hit your knees and pray, is no longer there. Because that spirit of rejection is there. And that's why we were talking about Jephthah. Now you see that in his life, his name represents whom God set free. And today I come by to tell you that God is about to set you free. Watch this. Harry, give me Psalms 40 and 2. And when you're seeing that what is taking place right now, that when that spirit of rejection is turned around, your rejection is going to take you to a place of elevation. Read, Harry.
Psalms 40 and 2.
Read, sir.
He brought me up also.
He did what now?
He brought me up also.
He's lifting you up from the place of where you sit and read, sir.
Out of a horrible pit.
He out of a what now?
Out of a horrible pit.
In that place that you're sitting in that place that you feel that you can't come out, God is about to lift you up. Read, sir.
Out of the miry clay.
Read, sir.
And set my feet upon a rock.
He said, what now? I'm about to set your feet, read, sir.
Upon a rock.
He's about to set your feet on a rock, read, sir.
And establish my goings.
He's about to show you in which way to go. See, then what happens is that God knows where you're sitting at today. He knows that where you're down and out at. And he said, I'm about to take you from the place of where you're sitting. I'm about to take you on that place that you're falling down, and I'm about to lift you up, and I'm about to take you from the miry clay. I'm about to set your feet upon a rock, and I'm about to show you which way to go. And you look at what happens in his life. You'll see that there was 3 other people that I'm going to talk about real quick, and I'm going to get out of here. You'll see that Joseph, he was sold by his brethren and imprisoned by the man that who he labored for, who he worked for. We look at Moses. He was rejected by his brother and he was pursued by Pharaoh. And all he did is said that Pharaoh, my God, said, let my people go. And today I'm telling you that the enemy is going to have to take his hands off of your life. And if you're sitting there and you're feeling that spirit of rejection over you, you're feeling that spirit that nobody loves you, you're feeling that spirit that you can't come up out of this, but God told me to prophesy to somebody today and said that I'm about to pull you up out of this miry clay, and I'm about to set your feet on a solid rock, and that rock is Jesus Christ. See, we look at Joseph's life and you see that how much he had to endure. He had to be endured that his brothers threw him into a well. He had to endure being sold off into slavery. He had to endure being cast into prison. But in the end, his story changed. You see that Moses, he was exiled from his people. He grew up as an Egyptian, but one day his life changed and he had to leave the land which he was familiar with. And when he left this land, God put him in a place of exile for 40 years. And in 40 years, you'll see that now his life is about to change. And the land where he was rejected from, come on somebody, the land which he was rejected from, where he had to run from, that he had to flee from, God sent him back. And he said, Pharaoh, let my people go. Now we look at David. David, he was rejected to be king. He served his king. He loved Saul, but he was rejected. Saul tried to kill David for time after time again because he didn't want to give up what God had rejected. God rejected Saul and he promoted David, but Saul didn't want to release his reins. Now we look at Jephthah. You'll see that his life changed. He had to leave his land. He had to leave his family because his brothers didn't want to give him his inheritance. Because why? He was the son of a harlot. And I'm talking to somebody. You may never have had a relationship with your mother. You may not have had a relationship with your father, and you grew up with the spirit of rejection on you. You may have made a mistake in your life, and that mistake has been that cloud that's been looming over your life. And you're asking yourself, when will this be over? I can relate to Jephthah. I can relate to his story. But one thing that I like about his story, he was a man of valor. No matter how hard it got, he knew how to fight. And today I want to encourage somebody that's watching, that's listening to me today. Don't lose your fight. The moment that you lose your fight, you're going to find out that somebody needs you to fight for them. And you'll see that when he went to the land of Tob, and Tob is just a place of good or goodness, the same people that rejected him came back and said, we know a man that will fight. We know a man that won't give up. And they goes to Jephthah and they said, will you fight for us? And because he didn't give up the fight, he said, if I fight for you, will you make me a leader over your people? Will you allow me to be a ruler, a governor? And they said, Jephthah, the Lord be our witness. If you will fight for us, and don't let this king come in here to destroy us, we will allow you to lead over us. And so I want to tell you today, the moment that you feel that you're about to give up, somebody needs you to fight for them. When you feel that you don't have nowhere else to turn, somebody's saying, can you go a little bit longer? Because I need your fight. I need you to push through, because if you can push through, I know that you can help me come out. There's something different about you, but Satan tried to destroy those plans early on in your life. He tried to give you an illness. He tried to give you an addiction. He tried to make sure that you couldn't get to the place that you were at, but God still says something about you. There's a fight in you. You had that spirit of lust attack you, and you kept falling time and time again, but there was something in you. There was a fight, and when that fight happened, you seemed to pick yourself back up again. When you got to a point in your life, you felt that you couldn't make it anymore, and every time you turned around, you seemed like that you had that bottle back up in your mouth. You seemed that you were back in front of that TV on the internet watching all of these lascivious things, but something happened. You said, wait a minute, I can't keep doing this. That's that fight. When you got to the place where you wanted to stick that needle in your arm again, and you said, and I'm tired of going around and around in circles, and I keep falling, but the Bible tells me the righteous falls 7 times, but he get back up again. That's that fight. And see, when you look at your life and you see that somehow, some way that you seem to get back up again, you said, I'm not going to always be like this. I'm not going to always continue to have to live my life this. You said, I'm going to keep fighting. And as you keep fighting, somebody is watching you from a distance. They're looking at your life and they say, wait a minute, Pastor Calvin was able to come up out of this. They say, wait a minute, fool, you see, I see how God did for you in your life. They're going to say, Harry, I've seen the struggles that you've been through, but you're still fighting. And they're looking at you, and they're going to come to you and say, hey, will you help me fight. There's a story that you have to tell, but don't give up the fight.
One of the hardest things that I had to deal with in my life was understanding who I was in God. And coming to that understanding and finding that purpose, that changed my whole life. Not knowing the purpose in God, you face your rejections and you accept them. But once you find out who you are in God and who you are created to be, you can rise above those rejections and take your proper place in the kingdom. So I would have to say the lowest point in my life was me facing losing everything from my family, children and wife, because of decisions that I made and those consequences that they brought. So you would think that all hope is gone because in reality it looks like you're not going to get through this. But it's in that I found keeping my focus on God, keeping my trust in Him, knowing that if I please Him, that He can fix any situation. You can face any situation that you're faced with as long as you're trusting in Him. Seeing through His eyes. A lot of times we have what they call sight, and that's only able to see what's in front of you. But vision itself sees beyond sight. Looking at people that might be facing rejection. Pastor Calvin was speaking on Jephthah in the 11th chapter of Judges, and one of the first things that it noted was his strength. He was a mighty man of valor, but then it brought in he was a son of a harlot. So even if you're facing with rejection, there's still something great inside of you. God created you with a purpose. God created with a plan in His mind. You didn't ask to be here. It's not like you just woke up and said, Lord, send me here. But He created you with a purpose. He put you on this earth, and everything that you face, everything that you experience is all to help somebody else. And God knew you were strong enough to bear it.
Of course. I mean, as a young man, of course, I was rejected by courtship. Every young man has to go through that struggle. Of course, as you get older, you begin to feel the rejection when you apply for work or a sports team or something of that nature. Everybody has that natural balance. But those aren't the things that really bother you when you're growing up. What hurts the most under rejection is when people that you aspire to look to or look up to, when they reject you. And sometimes rejection doesn't come flat out. Sometimes it's hidden. Sometimes it comes in a way that you didn't expect. I mean, I can think of a time when I was young, I looked up to my counselors, and they basically told me when I was young that I was a loner. Well, that isolated me and rejected me from the rest of the pack. And it made me feel rejected at that point. So it doesn't always necessarily mean that you're rejected. And even if you're part of a group, I know that you can still be rejected. You can be ignored. You can be called upon to be last in a situation where there's, they have to pick people, like, for instance, on a softball team where they have, or a squash ball team where they have to pick the order number, you're last. That's still a feeling of rejection. So it happens to all of us a lot, all of the time. It's how we deal with it that really makes a big difference. Well, first I would tell them to look deeper within themselves and understand that someone else's opinion isn't who they are. It's someone else's opinion. Your opinion of yourself is what really matters. And you have to recognize that God doesn't produce ugly. He just doesn't. The reality is that everyone has been created perfectly. It's up to you to figure out how to define that perfection. So step up, figure out what makes you happy, and move forward, and forget everything else. Now, outcast is somebody who has been isolated, or something that has been isolated, even to that extent, from all other areas. An outcast could be considered somebody who is on the fringe of society because it doesn't stick within the norms of what other people think. But that particular outcast may actually have something to offer society and people just haven't recognized it yet. I can think of one person who fits that profile quite well. And he happened to build one of the largest tech companies in the world. He he invented Microsoft, he invented the computer as we know it, and he was considered an outcast or a nerd. So he was told not to, no one wanted to hang out with him. No one wanted him to be a part of a team. So he invented his own team and found his own world. And that outcast is now why we have 95% of the electronics we have today. So be an outcast, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that.
I pray that this series has blessed you, and as you've heard from so many, and as you've looked back and looked over the messages that I've ministered over the last few weeks, I want you to know that your life is significant, that no matter what you're facing, no matter what you're going through, God still has a plan to bring you out. In the midst of your struggles, in the midst of everything that you're going through, the Bible teaches us, it says, all things work together for the good to them that love the Lord and who are called according to his purpose. I want to challenge you today, and I want you to understand there is purpose in your life. And no matter how bad it may look, no matter how big the storm may seem, God still has a rainbow at the end of that storm. I want you to know today that God loves you and that he's challenging all of us to do better, to strive higher, and to trust him. And so I pray that you take this message in knowing that even though you may have seen or feel that you're an outcast, God still has that ram in the bush to bring you out. Guys, God bless you, God love you. And before we leave here today, I want to offer you all an opportunity to sow into this ministry. And as you sow, you're going to find out that you're sowing into good ground. The Bible tells us in the book of Hebrews, it says that we are witness to show that he lives. And as you sow into this ministry, as you sow your financial seed, you are declaring, you are that witness to say Jesus Christ lives. Because I'm sowing into this ministry because this is good ground. And so the Bible teaches us, it says, as long as the earth remains, there'll be seed, time, and harvest. You plant that seed, God is going to give you a harvest. I want you to sow with us today. I want you to partner with us and watch God give you an abundance return in all that you do in helping build the kingdom. Guys, God bless you. God keep you. And if I haven't told you lately, just like my father, Bishop Jefferson, I love you, and there's nothing you can do about it.